Oh yeah, I could talk. Oh yeah, so I do want to talk about what I'm doing here for marketing. So I think one of the weaknesses of this show is I don't have enough viewers, and I think that's because a lot of like people just look for content. They recognize the name and then they just watch it, and they don't they're not necessarily being objectively rational if this entertainer is still entertaining after so many episodes. I'm trying to be as entertaining as I can each episode. I you know I have a routine before I start the show. I do get prepared for I have mental focus going on, but um, I don't have name recognition. So one of the things I'm working on, as you know, we're working on background noise. I tag as many videos as I can with background noise. We're going to take over that market. But I'm trying to release one video per day, and I've actually got them releasing up until July. So actually, as you're watching this, you're probably watching this. This is being recorded March 31st, this episode. So when this is released is probably much later. But I have to work on gaslighting people. And what I want to do is I want to convince enough people with the way the the words on my thumbnails and the images are set up is that I'm an actual celebrity that's been around for a long time. And that's my plan is to gaslight uh, and I want to target people that don't necessarily know who famous Twitch streamers are. So if you don't know the market, it works all the better with the gaslighting. So I say I'm a big Twitch streamer, and I target people who don't know who the big Twitch streamers are, right? Because if I targeted, people who are familiar with the top names on Twitch, they go, "You're just lying. You're just lying." But if I target people who don't know, I can gaslight them into thinking I'm a celebrity, and therefore get more viewers, right? But if you think about it, you're thinking, "Oh, that's awful what you're doing." If you think about it, that's how every celebrity became famous, like without exception. You were gaslit into believing this person was. It's you know, like Johnny Carson started the Tonight Show, and then one day Jay Leno hosts it. He's got a lot of fans. Why? Because Johnny gaslit everyone into believing Jay was, the the guy to take over the show. But the guy starts from nothing. It's not like Jay Leno. Like I know he did some temporary hosting and worked his way into the position, but you don't just um, like if Jay Leno would have just come out of nowhere and there was no Johnny Carson, uh, Jay Leno wouldn't exist. Like you wouldn't the show would have flopped, right? So there that has to be done, even though uh, you might think that gaslighting people into who is worth listening to is a terrible thing to do. That's standard practice in Hollywood, right? That's normal business. Um, I think I'm going to come up with a Hollywood thumbnail for this one too. But that's just how it works. And by the way, a side note: Johnny Carson was the greatest talk show host ever, and I'm just old enough to know this. That I saw him when I was a child, and there's never been anyone better. Maybe Conan. Conan's had his moments. Conan might have had better writers than Johnny, but Johnny was the goat. He's the Michael Jordan of talk shows, and if you might have even noticed in my show, there are some things I do that are Johnny Carsonisms. The critique of the joke. Like he would do his monologue, and he had worse writers than Conan, and half the time the joke was so bad that his critique of the joke got way more laughs than the joke. He just like what were they thinking, or he tried to figure out the thought process behind the joke, and that was the entertainment of it. That was his style, and until then, you just read your cue cards, you just did what you're supposed to do. But Johnny kind of went a little outside the box, and even some of his stuff. If you look at it today, if you get a chance to look at old Johnny Carson, highly recommend it. Just find some of his more interesting moments. And the guy did it for a very long time, pretty much every day, and that's the commendable part about it. It's like if you do if you just do one show once in a while, of course it's going to be higher quality. But to do that long for that volume, uh, with reasonably good quality the whole time, that's and he was famous. And I'll be honest, I think just like a lot of people who watch any shows, if you get an hour into a show, that's unusual. It's really hard to watch a show, any show, for 1 hour and still be entertained. It's just um, very rare. Even if I do a good episode here, you could get cut off. Phone call, someone comes to your door. Uh, there, way it's just the probability of lasting to the end gets lesser and lesser, and I'm well aware of that. But that said, maybe there'll be someone out there who says I've watched every minute. And they put it in the comments, and you'll be my favorite person in the world, frankly, if someone out there did that. But I don't expect that. Like if you can just watch parts of the show, give it some credit. Contact YouTube and say how come he doesn't have the same outcome of opportunity, right? He's not given the same opportunity. I don't believe in equality of outcome. I believe in equality of opportunity. And if I'm getting less impressions for no apparent reason, but again, that could also just be random too. I'm not going to say that's they're picking on small people. Uh, I don't think that's necessarily true, but it could be true. Like the algorithm could just be cruel and unthinking of potential future markets, right? Like if this becomes a bigger show and you didn't encourage it enough, there's reason to think that that's an error in the algorithm. So I think the correct way for the algorithm to work is uh, you get the same impressions, at least maybe per minute duration. So if it's a 1 hour episode, you get X amount of impressions. If it's 2 hours, you get more. Um, and there might be some rules on the content, like if it's someone speaking and doing interactive stuff the whole time, that's worth more than just a silent camera in the background recording something. I'm sure they put some thought into that. You'd think there'd be like a team of people at YouTube that actually inspects the content uh, for quality issues and maybe adjust it a little bit. And maybe that's it. Maybe you just got to make enough episodes. But yeah, I would say that for sure, if I could get more impressions, that would be awesome. And I don't think I'll ever be Johnny Carson here, but it would be nice to be able to, uh, pay the rent doing this. That I would hope that getting enough money to feed myself is in the cards for how much bloody work this is. It seems like a reasonable expectation. I don't need, you know, tens of millions of viewers that Johnny did. But again, I have been motivated by that guy. He was the goat. So just a shout out to him. And maybe if I gaslight people enough, maybe I'll look at some of the ways he promoted stuff, and I'll work on my gaslighting routine that way. Because I haven't had the benefit of having a sponsor like Jay Leno. You know, if you don't have a sponsor, you are at an extreme disadvantage in life. It's you know, kids without fathers and or born in poor nations or poor neighborhoods or whatever. If you're born fatherless in a poor neighborhood, you're like one. You could be twice as smart as the guy with uh, like you could have genius IQ and end up in prison. That's just the way it works. It's not a merit-based system. I think this is someone who says your zip code is a bigger predictor. Which zip code you were born in is a bigger predictor of your success than any other variable. It's something to think about. No matter how educated you are, or how good of a, how hardworking you are, it is your zip code that was the number one determining factor. So, just something to keep in mind in terms of, uh, you know, this show might not be that bad, even though I don't have, I'm at 5 subscribers as of this recording, and I don't think it's that bad. I think that's uh, a little unfair. But again, I'm just going to keep doing this. I'm going to make 100 episodes. They say make 100 episodes. Don't worry about the algorithm. So I'm not going to worry about it. Eventually, I'm sure someone will look into it, and uh, uh, I don't think I'm. Uh, I think there's enough interesting thing going on in this show that to justify the need to gaslight people into clicking thumbnails. But we'll see how that works. We'll see if I can target people who are not actually, um, you know, can you target people who don't follow Twitch and say, here's a Twitch gamer? I don't know. Just an idea. It's part of the show.